We have to add another rule to electional astrology, and that is that we never do anything when the moon is considered to be void of course. And you can check in the ephemeris for this or online. There's a million websites that have moon void of course schedules. But basically it means that the moon will not make another major aspect while it's in that sign. And until it moves into the next sign, it is void of course. So you want to not do anything new during that period of time. It is, however, very excellent for meditation and going inward, for deep self-reflection, we'll say. Now, other rules. The ascendant is very important in an electional horoscope, and so are the planets in the first house, because it describes the event that is taking place. And we want to put Saturn, not that we don't like Saturn, because it can lend structure and give a lot of sustenance to the project, but we want to put it in a succeeding house or in a cadent house. The cadent houses are 3, 9, and 12, and the succeeding houses are 2, 5, 8, and 11, okay? And therefore, the limiting aspects of Saturn will not be felt so harshly during the enterprise. The North Node. Now, the North Node is considered to be a protective aspect in an electional horoscope, and it's best if we place it into the house that describes the project we're undertaking. For example, if you want to buy a new car, put it in the 3rd house. If you want to take a new creative writing class, put it in your 5th house of creativity. If you're looking for a new job, when's it time to contact a headhunter for a new position, put the North Node in the 10th house of career. It's very simple. Now the South Node, the flip side of the North Node, that is where we're likely to be vulnerable and make our greatest mistakes during this new enterprise. So again, we want to be careful where we put it. Let's say we were beginning a magazine. It would be great to put the North Node in the 9th house of publishing, but having the South Node in the 3rd house of writing could mean that we might make typos in our magazine, okay? And that would be the least of our problems. So electionals can be used to plan a marriage ceremony, to purchase a new house, to begin a business, to have surgery. They can even be used on a more mundane level. I've actually had one teacher who used to do electionals for when we could go out for dinner, believe it or not. This is somebody with too much time on their hands, right? Okay, but I would like to give you a few rules for the marriage electionals right now. This is something that we'll be covering in the class coming up. And so getting married, you really want to have your moon free of all affliction. No squares to the moon, okay? That's really important. But more than that, you want to have a good aspect between the sun and the moon. That this is ensuring that the male and the female energies will be compatible and balanced in this marriage. Now, the third rule is that the ruler of the ascendant or descendant should be in a fixed sign. And they should be in good aspects. So that means that we could get married with a Leo rising, a Scorpio rising, an Aquarius rising, or a Taurus rising. But it's really important to remember no void of course moon when you get married, all right? The other thing is that you probably don't want the sun to be in the 1st house because it would make you too selfish in the marriage. In the 2nd house, unless of course you're marrying for money, or in the 12th house because that's the house of self-undoing. Now, good places to put the sun in your marriage horoscope will be the 3rd house because it shows mutual desire to learn together, the 4th house, a mutual desire to share a home together, the 5th house, if the sun is in the 5th house, likely that you'll have children or pursue creative endeavors together. And it's also the house of romance. The 7th house is an excellent place to have the marriage sun, and also the 9th house because it means you share the same beliefs and also fondness for traveling, or in the 10th house, and this will give you a very honorable reputation as a couple. Now, going on to see that when you're doing a marriage chart, you should probably go for air and water because it's more about communication than the fire and the earth signs. So more air and water planets you can get in there, the better off you are. Saturn, we don't want it angular, we want it in a cadent house for marriage. And certainly we want to be careful with Uranus. Even though Uranus is an exciting planet of change, we don't want it angular either, because it would bring too much instability for a couple to endure. You want to have very good aspects to Venus and Mars. Those are your love planets. And so if they're conjunct, or if they're sextile or trine, all the better. Now, another thing to note here is you want to compare your wedding chart to your own personal chart and that of your loved one. So you want to look at transits, progressions, and directions for what's occurring to you as well. So you can see how very complicated it gets. I mean, when my daughter married, we had 3 astrologers working all day long just to find a decent horoscope, even though there was no decent real day to marry that year. Some years are just filled with marriage electionals, and other ones are just, ooh, the poor bride or groom that gets married this year. It's true. Now,